All right, welcome to Blake Street Banter. We're having a banter session with Brad Hawpe. Brad, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on here, guys.
Yeah, I'd love to talk Rockies baseball, and this really is just a passion project for us. And getting to hear your perspective is going to be amazing. So we really appreciate it. I'll just jump in and start firing away questions. Does that sound all right?
Sure.
All right. So, kind of the big thing I wanted to talk to you about, and if you've seen our content, we talked to a lot of minor league guys coming up through the system, and I just wanted to get your perspective on what it was like getting drafted by the Rockies, number one, and then what it was like your journey coming up through the minors. Because I think you spent about 5 years in the minors. Is that right?
Yeah, but basically, it's somewhere right at 4 years. Is during 5 seasons, the short season, and then low A, high A, double A, then in triple A. Well, I got called up about a month in and was up and down that year.
Very good. And so coming up, you know, what were some of the biggest challenges you had coming up, and how did you approach those and get over those? How did you deal with, 5 years is a long journey. That's not easy.
Right, and it's different these days. Guys move along at a little bit different paces. Philosophies are different. Like I had a season in high A whenever I was in high A, and I wasn't a high draft pick, but I immediately became a prospect in the top 30 prospect type thing that they have now. Even the first season, I was ranked in the top 25 or 30, somewhere in that, just after short season of getting drafted. But the players moved along at a slower pace. I remember in high A, I went into the last month of season, which is like right now, August 1st of my high season, I was still hitting over 400, and I was still at the same spot. It was just, that's just where you were at for the year. It's a lot different landscape now. But what prepared me for that was college. I played with a lot of good high school players that came out of high school that were drafted high, but it's just so hard, for younger players that college playing at LSU and winning the College World Series there and having some cool moments just prepared me to be an adult because it's a man's game, making a living.
Yeah, absolutely. You said today's game or landscape has changed. What are kind of the changes that you've noticed about today's landscape?
Some of the things you can pick up on are like what's weird is there's like a dead period now during the winter, which blows me away that, with some of these negotiations and stuff, how there's a dead period. So, I know that there's that stretch of like 5 weeks where the clubs can't even talk to minor league players, which is insane to me. So even guys that are rehabbing Tommy John and all that, they can't work with the club's staff. So for 5 weeks or so, that period, you know, you don't know what guys are doing. You don't have any influence or any effect if somebody goes to the hospital because they're sick, that something happens, they don't know about it. Another change is, my first year in the minor leagues, played for 3 months and I made $850 a month. Now they're salaried. A you know lot less minor league baseball teams. The there's a maximum amount of minor league players now. I think it's 155. Where a few years ago you could have as many as you wanted. The Yankees would carry 250, 260 minor league guys. Well, they can't do that anymore. So it's way more difficult. To make it to the big leagues now for guys because of the shortened draft. College baseball is really benefiting from all this, but all these rules are making it hard. It makes it hard for me to see kids that go out of high school and sign and turn down college, especially with the new college rules coming into play now with 34 roster spots, which is small, but 34 scholarships for schools like LSU and the schools I went to, and NIL money, the millions of dollars of NIL money for some of these big colleges. So um, it's going to be fewer and far between where you see some of the high school kids go. They're going to be the premier 10, 15, 20 kids in the country. Like out of high school, I was drafted out of high school in the 47th round, by the Toronto Blue Jays as a left-handed pitcher. That's those days are gone.
Yeah, what's it like seeing guys making the jump almost immediately? I'm talking about Paul Skeens, Jackson Holiday. He's up, just hit a grand slam yesterday.
Hmm.
Um, Back when you were coming up, Was there a lot of that going on where people were making jumps immediately like that?
No, there weren't. I mean, Andrew Jones, Adrian Beltre, some of these guys, but it wasn't. And those guys were from out of the country, so really they'd already been in a system for 5 years.
Mhm.
Um, Guys weren't pushed as fast, but then again, um, we know a lot more now. Knowledge is out there. We know a lot more about hitting. We know a lot more about pitching. Colleges develop better. Kids are better. 10-year-olds are better than 10-year-olds were back then. 15-year-olds are better than 15-year-olds back then. I mean, just the amount of knowledge and the weight room and the facilities. Whenever I got drafted in 2001 off season, I started a baseball training facility in Dallas Fort Worth, and there was only two other people in Dallas Fort Worth teaching pitching and hitting lessons at that time. And by the second week, I was completely booked with all kinds of high school kids and stuff. Well, now there's a hitting expert on every corner or pitching expert on every corner, and a lot of them have a lot of good information. So kids these days are just so much better, so much quicker.
Yeah. I wanna jump into your career and experiences, a little bit. What were some of the most memorable moments or highlights from your time? I can think of a couple for sure. Um, but yeah, what were your most memorable moments, being a part in Colorado?
Well, the one that get to Colorado was playing in the College World Series and winning the College World Series. I mean, that's still the pinnacle for that sport. And anytime you're at the pinnacle of something, it's pretty neat.
Did you play at
Obviously,
Rosenblatt?
yes, yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, yeah. We played there and won it in 2000. Still on a text thread with that whole team. 24 years later, which is cool. They probably text too much. Uh, but I mean, it's neat making memories like that. And then obviously getting called up to the big leagues and having some of the teammates that I was fortunate enough to have, learning from Larry Walker. Saw Larry Walker at Todd's Hall of Fame induction, just making sure to thank him again for some of his guidance and stuff when where I was a young player. And then obviously, whenever we start getting good, when everybody would give us a hard time, and they call it Todd and the toddlers and all that, then they started realizing, oh, Matt Holliday's pretty good, and Garrett Atkins is hitting 330, and he's pretty good, and I could play a little bit, and Jeff Francis and Aaron Cook and um, Brian Fuentes, and you start looking around, Manny Corpus shows up, and it, Clint Barmas was a good player, Chris Iannetta was a good player, but nobody gave us credit until we started winning. Then we went on a run, which it was probably the biggest memory in Colorado. And, you know, that long stretch was terrible. And you see how it affects teams here lately. They're like, oh, this 4 or 5 day break for winning the division, hurting teams get knocked out in the first round. Well, we had twice that long from the
Mhm.
NLCS to the World Series. So I'm not making excuses, but that's an eternity in baseball. 4 days is a long time. 9 days is, you know, it's and then on that stage it was rough, but and obviously the another thing for me, I really enjoyed playing in an all-star game representing Colorado and being a part of that and being in the clubhouse with those guys, and that was a neat experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So just going off that real quick, you mentioned that, you were at, Todd's Hall of Fame induction. You guys are really close, right? You gave a speech at, his retirement ceremony, at Coors. Can you just talk about your relationship with Todd a little bit?
Yeah, Todd's great. He's been good to me for a long time. Just as soon as I got to the big leagues, immediately we were got to be good friends. And he and I still own a ranch together with another former teammate, one of my best friends, Matt Belisle, who pitched for the Rockies for a long time and a lot of other teams and had a great career. He's an extraordinary human being. But Todd's, I'm really proud of him getting into the Hall of Fame representing the Rockies. I mean, he's the true epitome definition of Colorado Rockies. Just and the way he went about his business, I'm proud to call him a friend, and proud to see him get the recognition that he deserved for not only for his play but for Colorado, the Colorado Rockies, and the fan base, because we had a good run there for a stretch, and they've had some other good runs. Be nice to see him get back there, but he'll always be the first true Rocky. I know Larry went in and Larry went in and played for a lot of good teams and a lot of different teams, but Todd was 17 years wearing purple. So yeah,
Yeah, I think Larry was giving an interview on MLB Network, and he referred to Todd as Mr. Rocky. So,
yeah.
I mean, he would definitely agree with that. I have a quick question just about Colorado Rockies baseball in general. You were part of the most successful couple years that the Rockies have had. We could talk a lot about that, but I'm just curious from your perspective, what does it take for this club to kind of make that jump um, to be a contending team year in and year out? There's a lot of talk about the Coors hangover, about going on the road. Hitters can't hit as well, obviously. Talk about pitching at Coors Field, how difficult that is. I'm just curious what your perspective is on all of that.
Some of that is excuses for me. I hit better on the road than I did at home. I know that for a fact. On a lot of things, Tovar is another example. I think I see that how much better he's doing on the road.
Hmm.
Yeah, I never felt great in Colorado. I would see Colorado as an advantage to hitters coming in and playing for 3 or 4 games and then getting out of there. By the time August and September came around, um, we never get acclimated in Colorado because we're there for a week, gone for a week, there for a week, gone for a week, there for 5 days, 3 days, 10 days. But, by the time you start getting acclimated, you're back on the road again. Well, other teams don't get acclimated either, but they still get the benefit of the 3 days. And then they go back to sea level, get better oxygen, get better sleep, better recovery. Well, we didn't. So that's the one excuse for me for Colorado is just the recovery factor. I mean, we saw how it affected Todd. I know it affected me in the back of my career, and whenever I ended up having Tommy John and some of this other stuff, whenever I left the Rockies and injuries, whenever I was with the Rockies my last year, it's just like you just can't recover. But that being said, I think a lot of the things that we did back then, I think some of it needs to be brought back now. I think a lot of it was team camaraderie. We'd be every single road trip, me and Josh Fogg and Brian Fuentes and Spilly and some of the guys, we'd figure out where we want to go to dinner that night. And every time we'd get into a city, the Colorado Rockies would go to dinner together, and it would be sometimes 18 of us because some families would be there, sometimes 24, 25 guys. When we'd be in September and there was more guys there, we may have 28, 29 guys just take over a restaurant, just spend the evening and have fun. And everybody go back to their rooms afterwards, walking back there together. And it was just, it was different. I mean, they don't do it now. Larry Walker bought me a suit. I took care of young guys. Whenever I got older and became a veteran, that doesn't happen anymore. I took Sam Hilliard out a couple spring trainings ago because still do stuff for the Rockies. I'll do some part-time stuff helping them with instructional league and spring training and some other stuff here and there. And I was in spring training and I said, Sam, nobody's taking you to dinner or bought you a suit or anything. He said, no. And he was up the year before a little bit. And he's from Dallas Fort Worth and I know him well. I said, let me take you to dinner tonight. So I took him, I said, this is the way it used to be. And I said, it needs to come back like this, just the team camaraderie and the friendships and that's your family when you're playing. I mean, you're with them more than you are your wife and kids.
Hmm.
And so we went to a nice place in Scottsdale. And then you start seeing a bunch of 25 to 30-year-old men starting to walk in there. And I'm like, I bet that's a team. Sam goes, yep. There's all the Milwaukee Brewers. And there's about 23 of them. And it was just a random Wednesday night. And I said,
Oh,
they're a winning team right now, aren't they? He said, yeah. And I said, that's because they're all best friends and they're all pulling for each other and pulling on the same end of the rope. There's a lot of money now. There's different ways to lead. We had a lot of good leadership. Not only Hurdle was a good leader, um, Dan O'Dowd set some good tones, but we had, our team president was Kelly McGregor, who was the best in the world. And I mean, one of the best human beings in the world um, before we lost him. So, I mean, we had a lot of leadership, but then we had a lot of leadership all the way down in the clubhouse, too. And, I think it starts there. You got to have the talent, and then you got to have the leadership, and then you got to be pulling on the same end of the rope.
Yeah, that's some really good perspective for sure. Noah, I'll let you jump in here. I know you got some questions.
Yeah, well, that was really, really cool to hear, and that I mean, that's a side that not many people get to hear and learn about. Really cool that you did that with Sam, and that all the great Rockies teams did that. I'm curious. You talked about your connection with Todd. Will you be here in Denver on the 17th for his Coors
No,
Field?
I won't be able to make that. My son, I got a 15-year-old son who's a good baseball player, and he got invited to as a freshman area code for the Texas Rangers, which is a big honor for freshmen, for the underclass. So we're going to be in California till then, and till right before then, and then we come back, and he's got a couple of his schools that he wants to go to, and that I know are trying to get him signed, and he's going to go on a couple of those, and one of them is that weekend for that deal. And so I'd already got that booked, and then I got the invitation today for Todd's August 17th deal, and I'm like, I can't get out of that. But I was with Todd for the Hall of Fame deal and the
Yeah,
family stuff and all that. So, uh, that was more important to me, is to be there to represent him in Denver than, or not in Denver, in Cooperstown, because I mean it's a lot of work to get to Cooperstown. And then whenever we got to Cooperstown, that was also whenever all those computer outages from
yeah,
Microsoft, and I know a lot of our teammates ended up not being able to make it because it was just because of that. So that's where I wanted to make sure that I was there for him and for his family.
yeah. No, yeah, I get that. And your son is part of the 2027 draft class.
Yes.
How
Yes.
different have you noticed? I mean, with technology and player exposure now, all on social media, your pre-draft routine and exposure, how different is that compared to your son, Drake?
Yeah, it's way different. Like, so in high school, my senior year, '97, which is starting to sound like a long time ago, but in '97, my high school team, we won the state championship. And that was down in Austin, Texas. We were playing at Dish Falk Field, University of Texas's baseball field. And so we won the state championship. The next day, we drive back home, and there's a FedEx package on my front door. And we open it up, and it says I was drafted in whatever 40 something round by the Toronto Blue Jays. So that's how I found out I was drafted in 1997. Um,
That's incredible.
yes, I mean, like, and there was a voicemail on the home phone from the scout who drafted me. Like, I didn't have a cell phone, and there was no way for him to contact me. I didn't have an email address. I mean, that's how I found out I got drafted. So, I mean, I'm in my mid 40s right now. 45 doesn't feel that old, but that sure seems like ages ago that something like that would happen. But it really wasn't that far away. And nowadays, I mean, you know, pro scouts can talk to. There's no limit on pro scouts, so pro scouts or can talk to Drake nonstop and have relationships and get to know these kids like Drake right now that we didn't have back then. And plus, these kids are better now. I mean, it's there's no comparison with you know the way we were back at 15 years old to the way he is and the way these kids are now.
Yeah, well, and we've kind of talked about it in our Blake Street Banter group. You played with Matt Holliday. If the Rockies in the next couple of years they go out get Ethan Holiday and then get your son, it's like a little reunion. How
Yeah,
cool would that be?
yeah. Matt and I'll be sitting up there together all the time watching.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that'd be great. Ethan's awesome. We had him down, so I help coach at the private school here in Dallas Fort Worth area. I'm the assistant coach, and Drake's on our team, and we scheduled for Ethan's team to come out here and play. So it was a lot of fun last year having a game where Drake and Ethan were on the field together, and Matt and his family were sitting up there with my wife and the rest of our family and my parents and stuff like that. Because we played together for so long. But Ethan's the real deal. He had an opposite field homer off us there, and it was just nice and easy. I mean, he's got a long future. I know it was good for them to spend some time together because there's a lot of good players out there, and there's a lot of people that want you to succeed, and there's a lot more people that don't want you to succeed. And it was good for my son to hear Ethan talking about, well, some people say I'm only good because I'm Jackson's brother, and some people only say I'm good because I'm Matt's son. And it's like, and Drake said, well, some people say that for me too. And it's like, yeah, but those are the guys who are throwing 62 miles an hour and can't hit the ball in the infield. Those aren't the ones putting in the work. But it was good for them to be around each other and hear some of the same stuff. And like, yeah, I'm hearing the same thing. Like the football coach at the high school that I coach is Jason Witten, the longtime Dallas Cowboys tight end.
Hmm.
It was really good. He's a Hall of Famer, and his son is my son's age, and they're best friends in the school.
Wow.
Even though they don't play the same sport, they relate to each other. It's like, well, I'm hearing the same thing. I hear the same talk and same goals, and just things like that are that are good for these other kids to be around together.
That's awesome. The cross sport connection. And yeah, I mean, obviously not many kids have that experience, and it's a whole different level of, understanding what everyone thinks of, their parent. I have a couple questions about your debut. You had a really unique major league debut because you pinch hit in a game one of a doubleheader, start off hitting 1,000, and then and later on in the day, just a casual 3-for-4 game with a 2-run homer. How was that? Welcome to the big moment for you.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it was awesome because I had a lot of family there. We got snowed out the day before, and it was against the Braves. Um, and I was that first game, I was watching and just enjoying it, just nervous as can be. And I think I watched Mark DeRosa play third base on the first game because Chipper played the second game, and like Dero had like his worst game ever. Every now and then I'll hear him on the MLB network talk about this game where he made like 4 errors at third base. I'm like, yeah, that was my debut game. I
Yeah.
think it's pretty funny, but it's a surreal moment. It's just the same game. That's what I learned immediately. Whenever I got sent back down, some of that was politics, service time wise, manipulation, and control. And we weren't winning. It's like, well, let's give other people some opportunities. And I understand that. But what I came to learn was it was really it was just the outside noise. It is what was different from, because once you're good and you can hit and you believe it, yeah, there's good pitchers in the big leagues, but once you really believe in it and you can stay healthy, then you can hit. It doesn't matter. It's all the extras like the noise. And I remember going to the first game at Shea Stadium for New York Mets, and all this media and all this stuff, and I'm just looking around, and like it caught me off guard that there's just so much more than just baseball. So that's what I had to learn. That really helped a lot was just separate all that other stuff. And when you get between the lines, this is the same thing. It doesn't matter if there's 5 people in the stands or 50,000 people, and if you can use sometimes that adrenaline of the 50,000 people in a positive way, then great. But if you can't, just play your game. That's what I learned, and I learned that quick up there.
Yeah. And the last question I have is kind of a fun one. And I realize this might be a little more difficult because it was a doubleheader. So certain guys were in and out of the lineup. But I'm curious if you could recall the starting lineup from your first major league start. So game 2 of that day. And it doesn't have to be in order, but names and positions.
Yeah, I don't remember. I have that lineup card. I have it, and I was always going to get it framed. I saw it because we just moved houses. Literally this past week, we just moved, and I saw that lineup card in one of the totes out there, and I looked at it real briefly, but I can't remember who all was there. I mean, I know we had Royce Clayton, and I don't know who all played in that game. Like Charles Johnson was there. Todd Green. Todd Green may have been catching that game because
Yep.
Charles may cut the first one. Aaron Miles
Yep.
was
Lead
a
off.
second baseman. Yeah, Helton. Vinny Castilla
Yeah.
was there with us. I can't remember who started pitching. Maybe it was Denny Stark.
It was Scott Alarton.
Scott Ellerton. Yeah, yeah.
Alarton.
He's a Colorado resident. He lives out there in Denver area. Good man. Um, yeah. Uh,
Two
was
more outfielders.
yeah, Holiday and Preston Wilson. I don't know if Preston Wilson was playing that game or Jeremy Burnett's.
Yep. Burnett's was in there at the center.
Yep. Yep. So
And
Burnett's.
shoot, yeah, you nailed that. You went through it like that. You have it right in the back of your mind.
I don't know. I just remember the players and where they probably should have been. I don't know where they were that game, but I mean we had a good squad then. But it just took time, like I said, before you can learn how to gel and pull for somebody else. I mean, that's probably the hardest part in pro sports, is to get a team that wants your teammate to do just as well or better than you. Like whenever, Helton gets his big contract, or when Tulowitzki got his big contracts. I mean, there was nobody more excited than us. Instead of being like, well, where's my $80 million? It was like, good for you. I'm so happy for you. And whenever people started thinking like that, it was a lot easier to win.
Yeah. Sweet. Yeah, that's all I had, James. I don't know if you have anything else, but
No, I think that's wonderful. And Brad, we really appreciate your perspective, and it's always an honor to get to talk to a Rockies great. So appreciate your time, and hope you have a good rest of your day.
yeah,
Yeah,
thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for taking care of the minor league guys. There's a lot of good minor league players out there. A lot of good kids for the Rockies, and the minor league organization for me right now is doing a lot of good things. They got Hurdle there, they got Hilton there, they've had me there, and Aaron Cook, and like um, Brian Fuentes and Clint Barmish, Yorby Torrealba. They brought a lot of guys back to try to create that culture and in the minor league system, and you're starting to see some of that in the minor league system. It has been a lot of fun. Forbes, running the minor league system and getting a lot of good guys. There's a lot of good coaches that coach in the minor leagues right now for the Rockies that are just doing it because they love it and they're trying to help kids get better. Jerry Weinstein's a great example. He's still there, just working his tail off. There's the minor league system. I'm excited for the minor league system to come up and contribute with Tovar and some of these other guys that have graduated, because the minor league system looks strong. I think in Hartford this year, I think some of the guys got caught up a little bit, starting off slow, but they're talented. But some of these other arms coming through, and really liked Ritter. I spent a lot of time with Ritter last year. Messinger, really like Skylar Messinger. I know he got injured, and I know he was a late pick, late senior type sign, but it's people with hearts like that you end up seeing playing in the big leagues. So, I mean, there's a lot of guys I'm pulling for. So keep covering those guys and doing them well.
Yeah, we love getting to know them and rooting for them and build those guys up. So that's really what we're all about. So appreciate you noticing that, and appreciate all the work you're doing with them.
Yep, sounds good. Well, we'll keep our eye on you. I appreciate it.
Of course.
All
Thank
right,
you, Brad. Have a good day.
Thanks. All right, y'all too.
see ya.